सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्री गीता ध्यानम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततल्यपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रेकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरननदी कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जन षट्परैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिन श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदेर् गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Hari Om. Hari Om. So we continue with chapter 16, Daivaasura Sampad Vibhaaga Yoga. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna says that the human nature that can be worked upon and also the human nature that can be worked against is twofold, Daivi and Asuri, the divine and the decadent. Nature that retards spiritual progress is Asuri, and nature that accelerates spiritual progress is Daivi. This is for spiritual seekers, mind you, those who are seekers. One who is not a seeker need not bother about all of this. See, if one who is not a tennis player, does he go or she go to the tennis court? Not really, right? So same. So we had distinguished between a sadhaka in terms of a practitioner and a siddha, the accomplished, while going through the first 9 of the 26 Daivi Sampat or the divine virtues that Bhagavan listed out, which are possessed by those who are endowed with divine or Daivi nature. He said, Siddhasya Lakshanani Sadhakasya Sadhanani. The Lakshanas of the Siddha are the characteristics, the traits of the Siddha are the sadhaka, are the sadhana for the sadhaka. What should be practiced by the sadhaka? That is what it is. We had covered the first verse. Abhayam sattva samshuddhihi jnana yoga vyavastitihi danam damascha yagyascha swadhyayastapa arjavam. So those were 9 virtues that we had covered. Now, as we progress with the remaining virtues of the Daivi Sampad, it becomes more and more difficult to distinguish between the Siddha and the Sadhaka, because the overlap, between the two sets and or the virtues that are pertaining to the two are a lot more. Hence, it is more difficult to distinguish. So, a sadhaka should practice as much as possible these virtues and actually try to comply fully, but a siddha must comply fully. Another interesting aspect of the remaining 17 sampat or possessions, in addition to trying to distinguish between whether I am a trainee or a sadhaka or I'm a PhD or a guru, like we have been speaking on the guru, as a siddha, is also the importance of, these based on the environment that one lives in, and also the vocation or the profession that one is practicing. Because the vocation or the profession influences the environment, and the environment one lives in influences the human being. See, obviously, all virtues and all values are important for each seeker. Okay, but based on one's nature, based on one's vocation, based on one's surroundings, the weightage that we put on one of those will be, say, more than the others, or a group of those may be more than the others. Now, in chapter 4, that was Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Bhagavan had used the concept of Prakriti-based guna. Guna is born out of Prakriti, right? So Prakriti-based guna, and defined the Chatur Varnyam, reasonably controversial topic, right? Chatur Varnyam. And after defining the Chatur Varnyam, he also defined what type of people should do what kind of roles, should practice what kind of vocation, should do what kind of work. And this was based on the permutation combination of the two, the guna and the karma. The world's first, I would say, I keep saying this, whenever I revise this topic, the world's first psychometric analysis ever. So with the passage of time, this concept decayed and the maladies of the caste system came into being. And Bhagavan himself says in the beginning of chapter 4, Sakalena Mahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa. A lot of this initial practices that Bhagavan has taught, what he said that he first taught to Surya Bhagavan, and Surya Bhagavan taught to his son, who then taught to his son, and so on and so forth, till Vaivashvatra Manu, the current Manu, learned the topic, and it has been propagating. But over the yugas, there has been a decay. But that said, let us focus on the teaching of Bhagavan. So the Chatur Varnyam, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, they are not based on birth. It is based, the concept of Varna is based on Guna Karma. It is exactly like in a corporate office, based on the nature, they will do a lot of psychometric analysis, leadership analysis, and all kinds of, studies will be done, personality studies, okay? And people will be bracketed under various categories based on their personality study. The other day I'd gone to my office and they were actually conducting I think Myers-Briggs template or something like that. So you templatize people in today's modern corporate world also. And we clearly understand that this template is for what? For the purposes of the work that they have to do. Similarly, the Guna Karma Vibhaaga Yoga, that, the Guna Karma Vibhaaga that Bhagavan did, and based on that, the Chatur Varnyam were defined. That was entirely for what kind of vocation that people should practice based on their gunas and based on the karma that happens through them and in their surrounding. So we'll come to the relevance of this in a bit. How do you practice 26 values? How does one do that? You know, and if we add up all the other virtues and values, we listed them out, right? Not each one of them, but we saw right from chapter 2, where Bhagavan talks about, you know, the Sthita Pragya Lakshana, chapter 2. Yeah. From then onwards, right? So we have listed, we saw what were. If you, so 26 virtues or values here now in the first 3 verses of this chapter. But if you list, and I said last time in our last satsang that we should undertake an exercise of listing out every single virtue or value that Bhagavan uses to describe a seeker or a person who has accomplished, right? A person who is in the path of yoga, a yogarudha, or the yogi. All of this we should list out actually. And if we list out all of that, it's going to be not 26, it's going to be so many in number. And then we also, at the end of every chapter, we identify our sadhana for that chapter. Then that also gets added to it. We also identified chapter for the sadhana for the Bhagavad Gita entirely. That also gets added to it. How is it that we practice all of this? Is it not an impossibility? Is it not extremely difficult? The answer, or the simple answer to this, is that we do not have to practice all of them. If we know our guna, if we know our nature, our inherent nature, and if we also find out what orientation ours is, like what kind of orientation do we have, what is our varna? If we know our guna and if we can find out our varna, and if we can determine the vocation and the environment, the surrounding characteristics that we exist in, then we can easily choose which of the value or virtue, based on our inclination and based on our environment, that Bhagavan classifies as Daivi possessions. Which of these are we comfortable with? Number 1. Which are the ones we like, we are fond of? Number 2. And which are the ones that are easy for us to follow? Number 3. We can also identify which we already have, which we are reasonably good at, which we are completely not good at, and so on and so forth. And based on all that, we can choose the virtues or values that we want to embrace, that we want to espouse. Even if we choose one out of all these, even that one is good enough, because one value attracts similar values. You know, I had mentioned this earlier in one of our previous satsang. I had developed a set of 12 company values for my company, you know, long back. This was, I think, in the mid-90s I had done. And then I've continued to use, maybe once in a while we have tweaked them here and there, but I've continued to use them ever since 94, 95. See, selfish goals retard teamwork. They are not helpful for teamwork. But following these values, they enhance teamwork like nothing else. You know, it just, teamwork becomes almost a breeze. So the values that I had identified were at 3 sets: individual level, as an individual member of an organization, at the team level, and at the organization level. So at the individual level, it was ownership, innovation, accountability, and leadership. At the team level, it was collaboration, trust, openness, and escalation. And at the organization level, it was speed or agility. We used to use either of those words: quality, adjustment, and growth. So 4 values at each of these levels. And I used to tell my team, take one of them and practice, put effort to develop, and the others will automatically happen. Take one of them, meaning 1 out of the 4 at each level. So of the total, you have to choose 3. Choose any 3. For example, if somebody said at an individual level, I'll take ownership as the value that I want to espouse, I want to stand for, which means Srini takes ownership. You know, that becomes known all over. You know, in the earlier days, we used to say that if you go to a mall, the malls were just coming up, you know, and people used to start when Bangalore started developing in, say, let's say 95, 98, there were no malls. There were no large malls. You know, later on, these malls started coming in. Then going to pubs became quite a thing to do. And you went there and you see a group of people and you know what, they are from Infosys. There was something about this Infosys wherever they were in a public place, you could kind of identify that they are from Infosys, because of the value that they stood for, because of how they were. That was that power of, you must acknowledge, that power of Narayana Murthy. I don't think Infosys has that today, the power of Narayana Murthy, right? So take one. So for example, if I take ownership, you stand for ownership. It becomes obvious. This person takes ownership. And then innovation happens, accountability happens, leadership comes by itself. We in a team, we decide that we will trust each other. We belong to a team, we are going to trust. If at all somebody lets me down, I'll figure it out. I'll get hit and then I'll figure out. But till that time, I'm going to trust blindly. And when you take a vow to trust blindly, you don't even have to take a vow, that's an extreme. But when we decide to trust blindly, collaboration happens automatically. Openness sets in automatically. Escalation comes about automatically. Similarly, quality. A lot of the teams used to choose quality because you put your thumb impression in the job that you do. Speed automatically comes. Alignment automatically happens. Growth automatically happens. So choose one. The same holds true for Daivi virtues, Daivi Sampad. Choose one and the others will follow. One more very interesting story which I love, that I like to, in this context, I like to share. It was a dark and stormy night in the deep seas. Captain, we have a serious problem. What is it? There is a ship in our sea lane about 20 miles away and they won't move. Tell them to move. We told them, sir, but they won't. I will tell them. The signal goes out. Move starboard 20 degrees at once. A signal comes back. Move starboard yourself 20 degrees at once. What? This is crazy. Do they even know who I am? Then the signal goes out. This is Captain Horatio Hornblower, the 26th, commanding you to move starboard 20 degrees at once. The signal comes back. This is Seaman Carl Jones, the 3rd, commanding you to move starboard 20 degrees at once. Who is this joker? We are a battleship. We can blow them out of our way. Let them know who we are. The signal goes out. This is the mighty Missouri, the battleship. The signal comes back. This is the lighthouse. So Stephen Covey's lighthouse principles that govern life, that must be followed in order to lead a successful and fulfilling life. These are lighthouse principles. And lighthouse principles, says Covey, are laws of nature that govern life. We think we govern life, but we do not govern life. We behave as if we govern life. With this belief, we behave. But the consequences of that behavior are governed by those lighthouse principles. In any setup, whether it is organization, whether it is home, whether it is anywhere, whether it is our spiritual progress, whatever it may be, in any setup, we have to choose values and principles that we espouse, that we want to follow, and that we put an effort to follow. There is really no choice. For progress, we have to choose. If we don't want progress, it's fine. Some people actually go to extremes. They choose values, they stick to those values, and they take it to an extreme. Raja Harishchandra, he would stick to Satyam come what may, including selling his family and selling himself, becoming a slave. A king, Raja Harishchandra, Satyavadi, becoming a slave. Why? Satyam. Mahatma Gandhi would stick to Ahimsa, come what may. The funny thing about Mahatma Gandhi was, before he organized a satyagraha, he would make sure that the message went to the British police, that so-and-so place, location, time, nature of satyagraha, in advance intimating you, to ensure that there is no himsa. You please make sure there are enough security arrangements. Right? So that level of extreme followership. Even if there was a chance for him to get arrested and put behind bars. So he'll go and then come out again and do one more satyagraha, inform the police and then do it. Earlier this week, Rafael Nadal, he played an incredible quarterfinal match against an opponent who is 12 years younger to him. And also much, much, much fitter. And Nadal was suffering from this abdominal injury and obviously under great pain. Later, after that match, after a day or two, he had to withdraw actually from the tournament. So it was quite bad. In the second set, I was watching that match. In that second set, his father, he screamed from the box, telling Rafa, get out of there, retire. You can't continue to play. But Rafa played and he won the match actually. He could see that he was under pain, but he won it. During the post-match, there is a press meet for the winner. Nadal said, how could I quit? In between, the match was going on. If the match had not started or something, it would have been different. But how could I quit a match in between? I am inside the court. I'm not outside the court. And that too at Wimbledon. That is not in me. I have to keep trying. This was one of the chosen values of Rafael Nadal, that once I get into court, I do not give up. I keep trying. So people go to extremes at deep personal pain. Obviously, he's a champion, right? So if we want to be a spiritual champion, take up anyone that you are comfortable with and stick to it. And then we can see magic happen. Now we can specify which virtue is suitable for which varna. Okay, but I will not do that because in today's world, it's not very easy or it is not well regarded to do that. It is extremely subjective. Each one of us can and should decide which bracket of nature we fall under, what kind of activity we do, which varna we belong to, and based on that, which value we wish to choose and we wish to follow. So we can do that. So continuing, Bhagavan now continues with the remaining Daivi Sampad. We will go through them, verse 2 and 3, but we'll do verse by verse.
Ahimsa satyam
Ahimsa satyam akrodaha
tyaga shantirapaishunam
yaga shantirapaishunam
daya bhuteshvalo luptvam
daya bhuteshvalo luptvam
Mardhavam hrira chapalam
Mardhavam hrira chapalam
Ahimsa satyam akrodaha tyaga shantirapaishunam daya bhuteshvalo luptvam Mardhavam hrira chapalam.
Ahimsa is harmlessness, non-injury, not being the cause of pain for any other creature. See, all lives at all levels are manifestations of the one supreme Bhagavan, the one supreme Lord. Recognizing sacredness in all of them, we saw this in the Vibhuti, right? Vibhuti Yoga, right? Everything, whatever we see around us is this glorious manifestation of Bhagavan. Absolutely glorious manifestation. Recognizing sacredness in them and not choosing to hurt them, or rather, choosing not to hurt them, right? That is ahimsa. Especially choosing not to hurt them for sport or for satisfying small sensual pleasures that we may have. That is ahimsa. There is this very interesting anecdote about how Gandhiji was inspired to take up non-violence. There is a Tirukural verse by the great Tamil poet Thiruvalluvar, and it reads, Enna seidare uruttal avar nala nannayam seidu vidu. So the best punishment to those who have done evil to you is to show them kindness. And Thiruvalluvar said that when you do that, you cause a sense of regret in that person, leading to good on their part. The famous Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy, he read this from a German translation of Tirukural. And he mentioned this to Gandhiji. Gandhiji had never heard about Thiruvalluvar or about Tirukural before that. So look at the interesting story, right? And this couplet inspired Tolstoy, and through him, it inspired Gandhiji to take up the path of non-violence. Satyam. Satyam means truth, abiding by the truth and the ability to speak truth, not shying away from speaking the truth. That is Satyam. And finally, the ultimate truth is Bhagavan, and everything else is an appearance of his Maya. So directing one's mind, directing one's speech, directing one's action towards the Lord, towards Bhagavan, is also truth. Akrodaha. Akrodaha literally means no anger, absence of anger. But absence of anger is close to impossible, right? Because anger comes from guna. Krodha comes from guna and from vasanas. They are inherent tendencies that you are born with. So it is near impossibility to completely avoid. Of course, zero anger is ultimate, because anger actually, remember we saw this earlier also, anger stems from desire. When Arjuna asked Krishna, what are the two vices that I should work upon? Kamaha, Krodha, right? Krodha comes from Kama. And if there is no desire, there is no anger, right? So doing away with desire means what? Ultimate realization of the self. So once ultimate realization happens, there is no anger. But till then, it is near impossible to not have anger. And what does anger come from other than, the Kama and other than the gunas and the vasanas? See, the insufferable impatience. There is impatience, and there is impatience where we don't want to suffer impatience, which comes, from other people who do not live up to your expectation. When their thought, their word, their deed, they are not up to our expectations. That time anger also comes. Akrodaha is the capacity to check at the right time the waves of anger that kind of come within us. So we will see that. So you have to quickly recognize that it is coming and try to check it at that time, at the right time. Or avoid situations that will cause anger. That is also akrodaha. And if anger does surface, allow it to surface, let it express, and do not let it linger within. Anger lingering within will cause more harm. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda used to say about anger, and about using anger, and I quote, I use it like a pen. I take it out of my pocket, I use it, and then I put it back. Emotions adorn a personality. Emotionalism is an ugly scar, unquote. Tyagaha means renunciation. The ability to let go of desires, of possessions, of sense objects that are sought by the senses in order to fulfill them. That is renunciation. In addition, Tyagaha also means letting go of the lower to achieve the higher. My favorite example, if you have to get up in the morning and exercise, you renunciate, you sacrifice sleep so that you wake up and you go out and exercise. If it is cold outside, you renunciate the comfort of that being warm inside your quilt and go out and go for a run or whatever workout that you have to do, walk or whatever. So grasping onto the higher by letting go of the lower. So letting go that results in progress is also Tyaga. Bhagavan himself had said, chapter 3, that a karma yogi is also a sannyasi. Because a karma yogi lets go of what? Karma becomes karma yoga. How does karma become karma yoga? Karma becomes karma yoga through the attitude with which you perform karma. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi. So any karma that is dedicated to the Lord and any result that comes, you take it as prasada of the Lord. That is karma yoga. So to dedicate action to the Lord and not take selfish, ki mera kaam hai ye, like this is what I am doing. That is renunciation. And when the result comes, accepting as a benevolence of Bhagavan, accepting with equanimity, that also requires letting go. Thus, karma yoga is also a form of sannyas. Shantihi, serenity. Every time the mind gets disturbed, it loses stamina. In fact, a disturbed mind is sin. We have seen that also earlier. Sin is nothing but a disturbed mind. But as the mind gains in poise, as it gains equilibrium, it progresses towards serenity, towards Shanti. So in a manner, Shanti also refers to Shamaha. Shamaha was what we said it earlier, right? Control of the mind. And this then leads to an inward balance. the equanimity, the aspect of the Sthita Pragya, and the poise of a Sthita Pragya, even in the midst of outrageous circumstances and a life that is extremely stormy, extremely difficult. Apaishunam. Apaishunam is calumny. Calumny means non-slandering, not defaming other people, not making derogatory statements about other people, especially false derogatory statement about other people, and causing damage to their reputation, talking ill of a person behind a person's back, during a person's absence. All of this is paishunam. Apaishunam is the absence of all of this. Daya bhuteshu, compassion towards all creatures. Very few beings are in absolute sync with us in terms of the seeker's persona, the seeker's ideals. All of these, very few beings are in sync with them. Even fewer are in sync with the Siddha's ideals and accomplished persons. Other beings are either not perfect, not up to standard, up to the level of expectation, or they are in distress. They are troubled. Something or the other in the samsaric world is bothering them. That is what life is all about. But still, despite of all this, to recognize the essential beauty of life through all of this and beyond all of this, and displaying tenderness towards other beings is daya. That is compassion. Aloluktvam, absence of covetousness. See, the average person has endless thirst. I want this, insatiable hunger. I want this, want all the time. Some kind of indulgence or the other. And it also includes misappropriation. Desire and acquiring others' properties. So to remain in self-control, to maintain self-control, even when there is cause for disturbance, even when the environment is offering you, please take. So someone is giving you a bribe and you say no, that is alolukta. Or someone asks for a bribe and you say no, which is very difficult, that is alolukta. Mardavam, gentleness. This comes as a result of following the other practices that we have gone through. A character that is refined automatically becomes gentle. Hrihi is modesty, bashful about one's own achievements or standing in society, actually being shy of accolades that come towards you. Also, the inner force that stops one from doing something that the mind intellect is, pushing you to do. Constantly the mind intellect, because of desire, ye bhi chahiye, this also I want, that also I want. There is a force, a counter force that stops this wandering of the mind among sense objects to help the senses get fulfilled. That is free. Achapalam, freedom from restlessness. See, fidgeting, people fidget all the time, that indicates a restless mind, which is bouncing around the sense objects. Absence of this fickleness is achapala. Normally, an accomplished person or a spiritually progressive person would not be generally messing around. You see a poise in their presence. That is achapala. And Bhagavan continues in verse 3.
Tejas shamadriti shaucham.
Tejas shamadriti shaucham.
Adroho nati manita.
Adroho nati manita.
Bhavanti sampadam devi.
Bhavanti sampadam devi.
Abhijatasya bharata.
Abhijatasya bharata.
Tejas shamadriti shaucham. Adroho nati manita. Bhavanti sampadam devi. Abhijatasya bharata.
So I see Rajaram raised hand. I notice it. We'll come to questions after the end of the verses that we are covering today. So the last half an hour is dedicated for questions. We'll come to that. So please hold on to your questions. So Tejaha is vigor. The vigor is brilliant glow. That is Tejaha. This is not the brilliant glow that comes from good food and ample rest. I had a good food, I slept really well, and I'm glowing. Not that. Neither it is the glow that comes from a beautiful, nice session in the spa, in the beauty spa. That also gives you a fantastic glow. This is not that glow. This is the glow or the halo that comes from serene poise, love for all creatures, energy through service. When you do service to others, the energy that you get, and that innermost fulfillment, that finding of that divinity within you, that deep happiness, the everlasting happiness and the deep happiness. The glow that comes from all of that is Teja. Kshama. Kshama is the ability to forbear and forgive. It also stands for patience. That quality which enables a person to face the most powerful opposition, the most provoking situation, the most extreme of criticism, facing that with poise is Kshama. See, the world does not spare anyone. The world does not hesitate to tarnish others. Even Maryada Purushottam Sri Rama was not spared. So nobody is spared by the world. Something or the other, sometime or the other will be hurled to tarnish one's reputation. The patience and the forbearance and the forgiveness that enables unruffled serenity through all of this is Kshama. Dhritihi. Dhritihi is fortitude, the perseverance to progress against any odd. Whatever the obstacle may be, like this Nadal example, unbelievable amount of obstacle internally, and that opponent, amazing tennis he played. So the guy is playing crazy tennis. You are not able to play your top level of tennis because of the injury. But what do? You just show dhriti, perseverance against any odds. This kind of dhriti, it does not allow the body to slacken, even if there are problems. It is a tonic against weariness. It is a tonic against injury. See, nobody is assured of favorable circumstances. It's not a green carpet that is laid out, a bed of roses that is laid out for us. All of us have to struggle. That is part of life. But the strength that comes from faith, the conviction of the goal that we have set for ourselves, the consistency of purpose, the vivid perception of the ideal that we are looking up to and we are following, and the bold spirit of sacrifice. All of these, each one of them and all of them together, they give us the fortitude, the dhriti. Shaucham. Shaucham is purity, both external and internal. A clean environment, personal effects that are neat and clean and tidy, habits that are neat and clean and tidy, not having a cigarette and then, the body as well as the mouth is having the smell. Those are all a must for every spiritual seeker. One who cannot maintain a clean surrounding, it automatically shows that the mind of that person is kind of not comprised of pure thoughts or pure intentions. And especially someone who's spreading dirt and filth around, impossible to have a pure thought and pure intent. And one who has internal purity will naturally keep the surroundings clean and the body, mind, and intellect clean. Naturally, it comes automatically. It's like that, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever it is, it's like that thing example that I gave that people, challenge me, right? I used to tell my people, if you are not appearing clean, how will your code be clean? Clean code means no quality issues in the code. Our software programmers used to write so many quality issues in them, right? If I am not clean, if I don't know how to keep my bearings clean, how will my code be clean? I used to say that. Anyway, so we will not go there again. Adroha. Adroha is absence of hatred, not entertaining ill feeling towards other beings. So even if someone else has done some kind of ill will towards you, not entertaining hatred or ill feeling towards that person. Droha also means tragedy, like backstabbing. So adroha is also absence of any kind of cheating or any kind of backstabbing. Nati manita, humility. The natural tendency of a human being is to appear important. In the eyes of the others, you want to appear important. You want to, somebody's coming home, put all the nice things in front, hide all the bad things inside, right? So you have a natural tendency to show the best side of yourself. When you're with other public people, you will smile. Inside the house, you can frown as much as required, right? So that this natural tendency of a human being to appear good, to appear important to other people, that is atimanita. So not having that is natimanita. Absence of that, absence of an enhanced notion of oneself, that self-assumed importance, that is natimanita. And Bhagavan says, Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. O Bharata, name for Arjuna, O Bharata, the king of Bharata, these are the possessions of one born to divine nature. Sampadam, possessions. Bhavanti, they belong to. Daivim, divine nature. Abhijatasya. Abhijatasya is a very crucial word. Let's come to that. We must understand this well. Abhijatasya could mean born with, means born with, could also mean born for. So while Abhijatasya means born with, it is also interpreted as Abhilakshaya Jataha. Abhilakshaya means having something as a goal, and Jataha, working towards attaining that goal. So this means born for. So if there is a goal and you're working towards, I'm born to achieve this. So I'm born for achieving this. So born with is an inherent quality. You come into this world with it. Born for is something which you work towards attaining, where you put in self-effort. So the inherent potential and the effort potential that you attain by effort. See, it is not necessary that inherent potential is achieved. In fact, even in our work life, we keep saying you have to achieve your potential. A lot of the performance reviews are based on how to help individuals achieve their potential and exceed potential also. So it's not necessary. Every bud does not transform into a flower. Every pupa, chrysalis, does not become a butterfly. In fact, the process of becoming a butterfly is extremely difficult. Extreme amount of self-effort is required. For a baby to come out of the womb into life, into this world, extreme amount of effort is required, both on part of the baby and the mother. Similarly, converting the bud of spirituality. We may have been born with Daivi Sampad, but converting that into the Tejaha, into that brilliant glow, that comes from inner happiness, that realization of the divine within, the self within, that process requires a lot of effort. That is Abhijatasya. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda said, and I quote, efficiency is the capacity to bring proficiency into expression. Now Bhagavan goes to Asuri Sampad. He summarizes Asuri Sampad in the next verse and then elaborates it from verse 7 to 18. So we will go to the summary now, which is verse 4.
Dambo darpo bhimanascha.
Dambo darpo bhimanascha.
Krodha parushyameva cha.
Krodha parushyameva cha.
Ajnanam cha bijatasya.
Ajnanam cha bhijatasya.
Partha sampadamasurim.
Partha sampadamasurim.
Dambo darpo bhimanascha. Krodha parushyameva cha. Ajnanam cha bijatasya. Partha sampadamasurim.
Hypocrisy, arrogance, and self-conceit, anger and harshness, and ignorance are possessions of those born with the decadent nature, Asuri Sampad. So if you notice, Bhagavan has purposely, the way he has structured this particular poem, like Veda Vyasa has structured, he groups them into sets. Dambo, Dharpo, Abhimana. And then he says Cha. Krodha, Parushyam together. So Dambo, Darpa, Abhimana together, Krodha, Parushyam together, Ajnanam in the third set. So there are 3 sets. The first has 3 of these qualities. Dambaha. Dambaha means hypocrisy or ostentation. Showing off a superficial glow. It's like an attractive hood, that you put over yourself. That covers an unrighteous, like you have these hoods, these villains in cinema, they have the hood. They have the hood to cover unrighteous activities, way of life, bad intentions, harmful motives. But the outside is ostentation, showing off. So this is hypocrisy, showing off something outside and being something else inside. Another aspect of Dambaha is being pretentious, attempting to impress by appearing or showing off greater importance than one actually possesses. Behaving like a guru when you are not a guru. That is also Dambaha. For example, meditating in a manner that you make everyone aware. Okay, so everyone should notice that I am meditating. That is Dambaha. Using the many ways that are there to make sure that other people know, hey, see, look at me, I am so great. You don't have to say I am great. You do something which makes her, oh, wow, that's so cool. But you make sure that the other person notices. That is Dambaha. Also, that also is Dambaha. And today we have social media to help also, right? So there is the story about a king who was very, very spiritually inclined. And he used to frequent a sadhu. But he had this complaint that, his wife, the queen, was not as spiritually inclined as him. And he used to keep telling the Mahatma, sadhu, Mahatma, see, look at my wife, she's not spiritually inclined at all. And the sadhu used to tell him, oh Raja, please don't go by superficial appearance. That's all he used to. Every time the king said it, this would be his response. Then one night, suddenly the king notices he's not sleeping very well. And he notices that the wife, the queen, is muttering Nama Japa. That Japa, when you keep on, Nama Japa, Bhagavan Nama Japa, is doing in her sleep. The king is thrilled and he says, wow, there is spirituality within her. And he runs to the sadhu and tells the sadhu. The sadhu says, please don't say this to your wife. But the king is so, eager about this and so impressed and so happy. Immediately, the next moment opportunity, he tells the queen, Rani, you are also spiritual. I didn't realize that. You are muttering Bhagavan's name in your sleep. As soon as the queen hears this, she falls dead. Attack, she's gone. And the king is very disturbed. He goes to the Mahatma and he says, this happened. Mahatma says, I told you specifically not to tell her this. Mahatma says, she was a Gudha Bhakta. Gudha Bhakta means someone who is a private Bhakta. Her connection with God was very, very personal. She didn't want the world to know about her connection with God. It's like today, modern day, you'll have an affair and not want the spouse to know, right? So the affair with Bhagavan was extremely private, extremely personal. And once it was in the open, she went. One of my friends, I think she's not there in today's Satsang, Petraji, she is an accomplished yoga teacher. But every time she talks about it, she says, I don't know anything. I have so much to learn. You know what? I just don't know anything. But if you go to her class, it's pretty good, by the way. She's really good. So all this pretentiousness, the opposite or the pretentiousness is Dambaha. This kind of a humility, the opposite of that is Dambaha. The Rani's story or this yoga teacher, the opposite of that nature is Dambaha. There is this term called Dharma Dvajitvam. Dharma Dvajitvam. Dharma Dvajitvam means the holding the flag of Dharma. One who actually follows Dharma does not need to hold the flag of Dharma. Sometimes it is not even one's own standing, by the way. If you meditate and you show off, chalo, take a pardon, if a person is actually meditating, then maybe over a period of time, this Damba will go away. But sometimes it is not even one's own, aapko pata hai main kaun hu? Minister ka beta. So you are not worth anything, but you just happen to be a, commissioner's brother. the right hand of this ashram mutt's superhero, Guruji's right hand. So self, nothing, not capable of anything, but riding on someone else's position and authority. The next one is darpa, arrogance, pride with a backing. So there is something to be proud of, having wealth and being proud of it, having knowledge and being proud of it. That is darpa. And this kind of pride thrives in keeping others below, especially if the other is also knowledgeable, equally knowledgeable or more knowledgeable than you. A knowledgeable person will keep the other. It happens in the corporate world a lot, putting down. If a person is also has a lot of the Daivi qualities, then it is easy to put that person down, right? So that is darpa. So there is this joke that recently came in one of the WhatsApp groups, you know, Mukesh Ambani. When I saw this, I remembered this darpa. There is a super accomplished techie. Mukesh Ambani recites this joke. Okay, there is a super accomplished. I think it came in our school group. This techie CTO, you know, PhD and all of that. He comes and sits on a plane, and then he knows that he is really good. Okay, and you have seen these people. You know, oftentimes we see people who are good, who know they are good, and he make it apparent that they are good. Right, so it's very obvious. Plane is an ideal place to observe all this. You know, there won't be any humility about them, right? So it is very obvious that he's good. And then he sits down and another person sits down next to him, you know, an ordinary looking bloke. And this guy looks at him condescendingly and says, what is this chap doing here? You know? And then he says, okay, anyway, I have to pass time. So let me show how smart I am. And he says, okay, buddy, let's play a game. You know, I will ask you a question. If you don't answer, then you give me 10 rupees. And then you ask me a question. And if I don't answer your question, I'll give you $100. Okay. So that's the confidence that whatever you ask, I'll be able to answer. So this guy says, okay, we'll play. So the super tech PhD big man, he says, you know, he asks a very, very difficult question about the autopilot mechanism of the plane they are flying in. Obviously, this bloke doesn't know, ordinary guy. So he says, sorry, sir, I don't know. Here are your 10 rupees. Then he says, okay, now it's your turn. You ask. So this ordinary guy asks, you know, he says, what is it that climbs up a mountain in 4 legs and comes down in 3 legs? Now this techie is in a spot, you know, the super PhD. So he keeps racking his brain, can't come up with an answer. Finally, he gives up. He says, I don't know. Now you tell me, what is it? So the guy says, you're asking me a question? He says, yeah, I'm asking you a question. You please tell me what. He says, here, rupees 10, I don't know. So he gave 20 rupees and got 100 rupees, right? That is darpa. Right? Being that proud of what you know you have, but showing off. There is this beautiful verse in Bhaja Govindam. Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garvam. Harati nimeshat kala sarvam. Maya mayamidam akhilam hitva. Brahma padam tvam pravisas viditva. A beautiful verse. Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garvam. Dhana jana yauvana. The pride of dhana, wealth. Pride of jana. You know, I'm well connected. My father is a minister, you know, and so on and so forth. Yauvana, youthful energy, the youthful capacity. He says, don't have, Shakracharya wrote Bhaja Govindam, right? He says, don't have this garvam. Don't take pride in all of this. In a mere moment, all of it goes away. May you realize that all of this is nothing but the play of Maya. And having known the truth about yourself, may you enter the abode of Brahman. It's a beautiful verse. The next, Abhimana. Abhimana is the third of the first wave or the first set of Asuri qualities. Also, Atimana. Incorrect and exaggerated, glorified understanding of oneself. See, darpa at least is you have it and you boast. This is not even having it and exaggerating and incorrectly saying. One's own self-imagined self-importance. And that leads to self-conceit. You imagine, you give yourself important and you become self-conceit. These are the second set of qualities. So this is what, you know, all of us as spiritual seekers have to guard ourselves. You know, one of my friends in the group said, our classmate has become guru. Another friend says, can I call this Swami, right? Now I am reading all of this when that is happening. So we have to be sure that we are not having these aspects. This dambha, this darpa, this abhimana, we have to stay away from all of that. And we will see more actually, even if a guru is a guru, one should not think that one is a guru. We'll come to that a little later. Krodha, temper, anger. A person with decadent values will assert himself or herself through anger. So if you are already having Asuri Sampad, how do you show that you are the boss? Through anger. Parushyam, harshness. And then this anger leads to expression of harshness. The expression comes in a harsh manner. The frustration that comes through repeated anger. See, you have anger, but the anger is because of the Asuri Sampad. So because it is from the Asuri Sampad, it doesn't get resolved. There is no solution. See, anger will go away if there is a solution. But because of the Asuri Sampad, it doesn't go away. And because it doesn't go away, you just continue to be harsh within and outside. Why? Because this person is living in an imaginary scape, mental scape, like a landscape. The third set is the one ajnanam, ignorance, lack of proper understanding or discrimination, viveka, lack of viveka. Lack of viveka between right and wrong, between good and bad, between dharma, adharma, duty and what is not duty, all of this. And such a person doesn't know that the person is ignorant. So the person also has moha, is deluded, ignorant and doesn't know also. And Bhagavan says, Abhijatasya Sampadam Asurim. These are the possessions of the one born with decadent nature. Decadent nature, Asuri Sampad. So when presenting, there's a beautiful thing which we must notice here. When presenting the divine nature, Bhagavan addressed Arjuna as Bharata, O King of kings. So these are the virtues of the good, of the Daivi. These befit the king. So follow them. O Raja, you have to follow them. And when presenting the decadent, the Asuri nature, he calls Arjuna Partha. Partha is Kunti's son. So loving addressing, not, hey Raja, not like that, loving. So anyone listening to Asuri Sampad will get disturbed, okay? It's not possible for someone, especially a spiritual seeker, who listens to Asuri Sampad not to get disturbed. There will be some kind of a, because these are all hard, bad qualities, right? So Bhagavan probably noticed this kind of an anxiety in Arjuna's face, and they were compassionate. Bhagavan Shri Krishna, he addresses Partha with love, O son of Kunti. See, coming to this discussion about Guru, right? And I humbly thank whoever is saying all of this, but no thank you also. And there was a discussion about Guru. Maybe I'll post this in the group after the satsang. But see, when we say Guru, in my opinion, a Guru is one who has all of the Daivi Sampad and zero Asuri Sampad. Now, forget about me. I have not seen anybody with 100% Daivi Sampad. I have not met any human being, any Guru, any sannyasi with saffron robes, not even one. And I've come across a lot of them, by the way. I've come across because I've undergone course under them. I've come across because I've walked in the Himalayas and gone into caves and met with sannyasis who live there. But I have not seen even one who has, I'm saying 100%. I have met with people who are 95%. If I have to sit down and judge them, which I have no capacity and no, I don't mean to judge, but I will say, kuch to flaw hai, somewhere you will notice. Okay, but I honestly, in all my honesty, I don't think I can give them, that they have all 100% as a follower, not as someone, Bhagavan judging them or as their guru, as a follower. But the fact that they have 95, they are worth following. The fact that they have 95, they are worth putting in the pedestal of a guru. And they don't have, by the way, zero Asuri. Zero Asuri. Now, can we claim to have zero Asuri? We are all work in progress. Okay, both in terms of eliminating Asuri and in terms of adopting Daivi. Right? So when that happens, it will be obvious. By the way, people with saffron robes are not 100% Asuri, or even 50%, sorry, 100% Daivi, or even 50% Daivi, by the way, 60% Daivi, 70%. No, you're not. Lot of the qualities you go list by list by list and see, they do not possess. And they possess some which are Asuri also sometimes. So the truly accomplished Guru is one where it will be obvious, that the person, where you don't start, if this kind of a discussion comes, honestly, I didn't do this and I don't like to do this. I don't want to put 90%, 95%. Who am I to rate my Guru? Nobody. I'm not nobody to rate my Guru. My Guru for me is 110%, not 95%. But living through in today's world, in today's Kali Yuga, with all of these Daivi Sampad, none of this Asuri Sampad is a near impossibility. As long as we are making effort, I think we should be happy. And now, Sri Krishna, which is going to be a very relevant verse in this context, he gives us the result of Daivi and Asuri Sampad respectively. Let's go through the result.
Devi Sampad Vimokshaya.
Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya.
Nibandhaya Surimata.
Nibandhaya Surimata.
Mashucha Sampadam Devim.
Mashucha Sampadam Daivim.
Abhijatosi Pandava.
Abhijatosi Pandava.
Devi Sampad Vimokshaya. Nibandhaya Surimata. Mashucha Sampadam Devim. Abhijatosi Pandava.
So I'm not going to do word by word translation because it's already 5:05. I'm running late. So I will avoid word by word translation. The verse says the divine possessions lead to liberation. The decadent one is deemed for bondage. And then Bhagavan assures Pandava, don't be anxious, O Pandava. You are born with divine possessions. Vimokshaya. Vimokshaya means Mokshaya, Mokshaya. Mokshaya to the power of 2. Mokshaya square. Or Mokshaya to the power of n. Multiple Mokshaya. Okay. We have studied earlier about the twofold liberation. Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. Jivan Mukti is liberation while living. Full identification with the divinity within, with the self within. And freedom from the shackles of the body, mind and intellect. That is Jivan Mukti. Videha Mukti is liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Videha, that is Deha square. Videha Mukti. No more embodiment, no more Deha. Deha is body, no more body. So Vimokshaya indicates both Jivan Mukti and Videha. That is Vimokshaya. It is said in the Upanishads, Vimuktascha Vimuchyate. The one who is liberated is liberated. Getting Jivan Mukti while you are alive, which means becoming the true Guru, becoming the true accomplished soul, having that halo of Tejas within you and which is apparent outside, that true accomplished soul while living is a Jivan Mukta. And when that leaves the body, when the body is discarded, becomes fully Mukta, Videha Mukti. So Vimokshaya means Jivan Mukta followed by Videha Mukti. Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya. One with Daivi Sampad is fully liberated, completely liberated. Whereas Nibandhaya, Bandhaya is bondage. Nibandhaya is Nitya Bandhaya, ever bonded, ever bound, continuous, always bondage. The samsara is non-stop movement. See the cycle of birth and death. It keeps happening all the, we see movement all around us, change all around us continuously. right? Non-stop movement is samsara, bound to this non-stop movement here and hereafter, in this life and beyond this life. That is nibandhaya. And Bhagavan sees this anxiousness in Arjuna's face and he immediately assures, Ma shuchaha, don't be anxious, O Arjuna. Abhijatosi sampadam daivim. You are born with, and your inclinations are towards daivi sampad. See, a genuine seeker has self-doubt. In fact, one would tend towards looking at flaws rather than looking at perfection. One would tend towards looking at, hey, I'm not good, rather than, taking one goodness for granted. And Bhagavan assures Arjuna. And not only that, now he addresses Arjuna as Pandava. So he's saying, Pandava, all the Pandavas are Daivi Sampad. Not just you, all your entire family, all Pandavas are born for Daivi Sampad, born with Daivi Sampad. And what is the underlying message for us? O student of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, when he says, O Pandava, we are also Pandavas, because we are students of Bhagavad Gita. Like Arjuna is student of Bhagavan right now. Anyone who has the interest and perseverance to study the Gita and reach up to chapter 16 is surely one who is born with Daivi Sampad. Now it is up to us to be born for Daivi Sampad. If we are in the Satsang, if we are studying ourselves in our own free time, we are born with Daivi Sampad. To be born for Daivi Sampad, we have to put in the self-effort to develop the 26 virtues and the other virtues, and to discard the Asura Sampad. And Bhagavan had given such an assurance earlier also. In chapter 6, verse 40, Bhagavan had said, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gachati. O Partha, neither in this world nor in the next world is there destruction for this person. Anyone who does good does not surely go into bad state or grief. And he uses Tata, O my son. Swami Chinmayanandaji had said, and I quote, the present is a product of the past. And thought by thought, action by action, knowledge by knowledge, we create the blueprint for our own future. In the present, we create the blueprint for our future. Unquote. The Sanatana Dharma, so we spoke about this constant samsara, birth, death, and all that, right? So I want to spend a couple of minutes on this. The Sanatana Dharma philosophy espouses previous life as well as future birth for all embodied souls. This is the theory of reincarnation. We have seen this earlier. I'm not going into the detail of reincarnation. And based on the principle of reincarnation, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says that no seeker is ever lost. One may fall, one may, slip, but one does not get hurt. One may even end this present Janma manifestation, not fully accomplished. But don't worry, there is still time. There is a future Janma. This is the philosophy of optimism that Sanatana Dharma espouses. It has. And through the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives this eternal message of hope for all of us, to all humankind. And the second line of this verse is one of those representations. Nahi kalyana krit kaschida durgatim tata gachati. No doer of good, O son, will ever come to grief. Now Bhagavan this verse, Satsang will conclude by the next verse. Bhagavan says what he has covered till now and what he is going to cover. The classifications of the Jeevartmas.
Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmin.
Dau bhuta sardau lokesmin.
Daiva asura eva cha.
Daiva asura eva cha.
Daivo vistarasya proktaha.
Daivo vistarasya proktaha.
Asuram partha me shrunu.
Asuram partha me shrunu.
Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmin. Daiva asura eva cha. Devo vistarasya proktaha. Asuram partha me shrunu.
Again, I'm skipping the word by word. You please look at the notes. There are two types of being in this world. O Partha, there are two types of being in this world, the divine and the decadent. The divine has been explained in detail. Hear from me of the decadent. See, elements of creation, all elements, especially human beings, they possess countless characteristics. Even within a same human being, there are so many different traits and characteristics. Overarchingly, Bhagavan classifies these into two types, the Daivi and the Asuri. We may even wonder that why is Sri Krishna ignoring, why is he classifying into only two? And why is he ignoring even Rakshasi Sampad that he had covered earlier, right? He had brought out in brief earlier. See, this Rakshasi Sampad is something that cannot be worked upon. It needs to be experienced and exhausted. It's like Prarabdha Karma. Bhugatna padega. Rakshasi Sarma Bhugatna padega. However, the Daivi Sampad can be cemented and it can be improved upon. And the Asuri Sampad can be minimized and can be rejected completely, discarded. Taking recourse to the goodness within and overcoming the bad within. See, both are within, by the way. The goodness, taking recourse to the goodness within and overcoming the bad within. Then one becomes born for Daivi. And taking recourse to the bad within and subjugating the goodness within, one becomes born for Asuri. For spiritual evolution, the former is required. Taking recourse to the goodness and removing the badness. Bhagavan has covered that in detail, not just through these 26 virtues, throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Now he says, Asuram Partham Neshunu. Listen from me, O Partha, the Asuram. Bhagavan takes it upon himself to point out the decadent, the Asuri aspects that are in his own creation. He takes it upon himself for our benefit. We will take them up in the next satsang. Hari Om, Shri Krishna. Thank you.
We have time to repeat verses.
Actually, it's 5:15, so
We close.
we close and then we'll open up for questions.
Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm extending. See, I noticed a couple of people, they have other engagements, they drop off at 5 o'clock. And some of you have also told me. So I try my best to finish at 5, but sometimes this happens. So I request you to look at the audio or video, whatever. And earlier we used to even go up to 5:45, 6 also. So I am fine, I can do that. Okay, we'll open up. Any thoughts, comments, and questions?
I don't have a question. I missed one word here. In between Krodha and Agnanam, what was the word told? For
sorry,
harshness.
Yeah.
What's the word?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
I missed a word when you were saying after Krodha and before Agnanam. There was a word.
Okay. So please have your, you must have the Bhagavad Gita verses book with you when we go through it. Please. And try to chant also along with it. It's in the verse, no? Parushyam, the word. So, yeah, my request is please have any Bhagavad Gita book will have the verse. Yeah, I think Rajaraman and also Bhaskar. Yeah, please go ahead. Rajaraman, go ahead. You had asked first.
Questions. I didn't have any question by mistake, but
okay.
I'm really
okay.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yes, Suresh.
Thank you.
You have to unmute yourself. You're on mute.
Somebody asked me.
Do you want to? Yeah, go ahead, Rama.
Yeah, it's actually, I want to clarify myself. It's not a question. When you're born itself, there are certain nature in us, either a demonic nature, asuric nature, or a divine nature in us, which predominates, which gives us a way to become a sadhaka. If I am born with asuric nature, I can develop it towards. But if I'm born with a rakshasa nature, I can never become a sadhaka. Is that what it is?
That's correct. Yes. So
I understood that correct.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So rakshasa nature, you have to experience and get over that particular embodiment, and then because of the sanchita karma, you can come back as a asura or a daivi.
The next, but if I'm born with certain qualities, certain divine qualities in me, it is left up to me to develop, to become a sadhaka. Is it?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. That was my
For example, see, Ravana is, you can't call Ravana an asura, a Rakshasa. Ravana is actually an asura. Extremely capable king and ruler, and lot of righteousness also, by the way. So Ravana is an asura, but Shurpanaka is a Rakshasi. Because so asuras normally, even in today's Kali Yuga, we see in our environment, okay, the asuras will employ the Rakshasas to do all kinds of bad work. They themselves will not do. Okay, so Chidambaram, I don't know, I'm sorry, I should not take name. A politician may be corrupt, but he will never be caught because he's using other Rakshasas to do all the bad work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Okay, Srini. Yeah, Srini, my question is about disturbed mind. You said we need to control it. Now, can you provide us few steps, simple steps, how to control the disturbed mind?
See, the best thing that I would say is, ideal thing that I would say, I can give you a short conscript, kind of a thing answer here, but it will be great if you go through from the beginning, our satsang on YouTube. It's Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita beautifully charts it out, how to do that. So the disturbed mind, Bhagavan actually calls that nothing. There's nothing called sin. When we say papa is a disturbed mind that has left this body and gone and come back with some of those as karma,
Okay.
Right? So this a mind which is disturbed it's called Shadripu. There are 6 aspects of a disturbed mind: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. These are the 6 broad categories of a disturbed mind. So, and what was the question? Steps to take. So the best way to, to overcome a disturbed mind is to first discard these Shadripus. And the way to discard the Shadripu is to pursue these divine virtues that Bhagavan lists right through the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, these 26 virtues are at a very enhanced stage of the Bhagavad Gita. When you go back to Sthita Pragya Lakshana, and then when you go to Karma Yoga and all, then it's more relevant to our day-to-day life today. So we have to see how we are progressing step by step by step. The 26 virtues that Bhagavan has listed here are for a reasonably well accomplished spiritual soul. So we have to start, most of us have to begin from the beginning, and the fact that we have the Daivi Sampad, we will progress fast. The progress is very, very fast.
Okay. My second and final question is the role of Maya. I like to call her as Maya Memsa. Okay, what is the real role of why Maya? Everybody knows most of the things about Maya. Okay, Maya Memsa is playing a very, very important and pivotal role in our life, right? Do you think, with your knowledge and experience, how can we avoid Maya Memsa, or we cannot avoid Maya?
You cannot avoid Maya. Maya is, Bhagavan's
one of the versions, yeah.
But the Nirguna Brahman, when he first expresses,
Hmm.
the very first expression of Nirguna Brahman is through Maya.
Hmm.
And you cannot, and all of creations come from
Exactly.
this, right?
Hmm.
So we cannot, again, my request would be, it's beautifully explained in Bhagavad Gita. You know, if
Okay.
you go back. And I will, if anyone who is starting now from the beginning, please feel free to reach out to me anytime, you know, any of the previous chapters, you know, it would be my, I'll learn better, you know. So yes, the answer to your question is you cannot avoid Maya. Maya is there. Everything that we see is Maya. Bhagwan's expression is Maya. So you cannot avoid it.
Thank you.
How do we live in this creation of Bhagwan, and how do we attain the Videha? The Jivan Mukti is good enough, no, for us. You know,
Right.
let us first think about Jivan Mukti. When we get to a very enhanced state, Videha Mukti will automatically happen.
Okay. Thank you.
So the only way to avoid Maya is to get Videha Mukti.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Bhaskar.
Yeah, my question actually basically the last verse has answered my question. What I need to know in our life, we, as you say, I mean, as Gita says that we are born with Devi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti, right? We, during our journey in life, we interact with people who could be having Devi Sampatti and could be having Asuri Sampatti. Is it not a mixed thing? Because when I see my mind, there are thoughts which are black, and not necessarily all the time. There are thoughts which can be defined as Daiva Sampatti, but I will not say, frankly speaking, that all my thoughts will lie under the frame of Daiva Sampatti. It could be also Asuri Sampatti, right? So I need to understand as to how, I mean, when you're interacting with people who have a higher percentage of Asuri Sampatti, how do you not get influenced, and how can you do a course correction for them? Or how, I mean, if I am one with Asuri Sampatti, is there no scope?
No, see, this is exactly where, you know, Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita that every human being has this is the quote unquote optimism of Sanatana Dharma, right? Even if not in this life, there is a Punarjanma in which you can continue and achieve. So as long as we are making effort, last satsang we talked about self-effort. As long as we are making the self-effort to progress in the right path, make progress in the spiritual path, which is beautifully defined, you know, which is actually, I would really encourage that we go back and start reading again. You know, Bhagavan starts with saying that karma to everyone has to do. You are bound to do. You cannot escape karma. Okay, so when you cannot escape karma, how do you ensure that that karma is karma yoga? Karma yoga means, you know, positive karma, good karma. How do you ensure that, right? And slowly, as you start doing good karma, positive karma, then how do you become a yoga rudha? You know, one who is established in the pursuit of yoga. Then once you become a yoga rudha, then how do you get to the next level of showing ananya bhakti, where you are completely devoted to Bhagavan? And all this, it follows through the process of karma yoga, through jnana yoga, through bhakti yoga, and then the Daivi Sampat, Asuri Sampat. So it is very systematic, right? So anyone who first reads and then makes a conscious effort to implement these aspects is making progress. And Bhagavan also says earlier that even if your life is cut short, don't worry, don't despair, because it will continue from where you left off in the next Janma. So first of all, to answer your question, if you know that you have Daivi Sampat and some part of Asuri Sampat, you try to discard. That is why Bhagavan is educating us, no? That is why he's telling us what exactly is Asuri Sampat, what exactly is Daivi Sampat, so that you live a life where you adopt Daivi Sampat and you discard Asuri Sampat. So that should be our endeavor in our life, as far as we are concerned. As far as others are concerned, Again, there is Daivi Sampad that is specifically listed out to how to deal with the others. For example, Krodha mostly is a reaction to, it could be an inherent tendency. It is coming through inherent tendency, vasana or guna, but it is also a result of someone else not stepping up to our expectation.
A
Right?
reflex action. I mean,
Krodha is a classic example.
Yeah.
So Krodha is a classic example. We have the desire for somebody else to be up to our expectation. If we discard that desire, Krodha automatically goes away. So either by discarding desire or by changing the environment. These are the only two ways. So if the environment, so Vibhishana, what did he do? He went up to a stage where he could not stay in Lanka. See, like a tongue inside, it is said that like a soft tongue inside harsh teeth, he was living in Lanka under the atrocities of Ravana. Another person was Ravana's wife, Mandodari. Thank you, Kushagra. Yeah, Mandodari. In Lanka, under Ravana, who were supposed to be Daivi Sampat, who are not supposed to be, who are known to be Daivi Sampat as per our Puranas. Right? So, finally, what did Vibhishana do? He left. He changed the environment. When he could not do anything more, when it went to a complete state of degradation, then he let go of it, left it, and came out of it. So you have to try and change, try and improve, try and get better as much as possible. So if that doesn't happen, change the environment.
So what this mix of it is that your constant endeavor for self-improvement. I mean, others' improvement is not your baby. I mean, basically, when I do a self-improvement or change myself, then that's the end of it. That addresses each and everything, right?
Others' improvement, in this embodiment, there is no, forget about, there is no guarantee. There is no possibility of we causing any actual perceptible change in anybody else. You can only say, you can only do, you can only state. It is up to the student to pick up. It is up to the observer to pick up. So if they pick up, they become better. If you demonstrate good quality and they pick up and learn from you and they let go of their bad quality or they improve their good quality, that is good. That is up to them. But at the end of the day, it is each individual who has to walk this path. Yes, the one who is learned, more learned helps. But they can't take responsibility. Even the best of gurus can't take responsibility for moksha, for their shishya. The shishya can get moksha through, through sharanagati to the guru, through devotion to the guru. But guru can't say, I'll grant you moksha. No, it doesn't work that way.
Thank you so much.
Any other thought? Yep. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Srini.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for listening.